doon sa market price list, sila yung pinakamura. Sila yung isa sa may pinakamadaling handling. Yung temperature that you need for it is not any different from the vaccines that we already use for our other needs.
Totoo po, meron tayong lahat karapatan para sa mabuting kalusugan, pero hindi naman po pwede na pihikan, no? Dahil napakadaming Pilipino na dapat turukan. So pag pinakunahan ng unang tao ng Sinovac sa Pilipinas, 51 million na Chinese na po ang nabakunahan dyan. At napakadami na pong mga bansa ang nagpatunay na safe at epektibo po ang Sinovac.
Baguio City will hold the Panagbenga Flower Festival to revitalize tourism in the summer capital, but with limited activities due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Now, apart from Baguio City, more than 80 other cities under the League of Cities of the Philippines will hold a General Assembly tomorrow with a COVID National Task Force to discuss the vaccine agenda. Will the cities lead the much-awaited vaccination drive for Filipinos? We discuss in this episode of The Chiefs. And welcome to this Monday edition of The Chiefs. And of course, with us tonight in the studio is Robbie Alampay of One News. Welcome back.
Kumusta ka, Ed?
Di ka na marinig. Medyo malayo. But also joining us via StreamYard are Lucy Cruz Valdez, the head of News 5, and Ana Marie Pamintuan of the Philippine Star from the port area in Manila. Ladies, good evening.
Good evening.
Hello, good
Good
evening.
evening.
I'm missing your faces,
Oh.
and Robbie.
Come on down. Punta na kayo dito. Pwede tayo mag-aerobics dito. Hindi pa rin tayo magkakatamaan.
Well, it's
Okay.
good to be back in the
No,
studio.
it's good to be
Vaccine is
back.
here.
It's good to be back. Please note, everyone, we are still social distancing. We are still following all protocols. We're trying not to speak too much to avoid the aerosolization of our conversation.
Aerosolization. Okay. That's a multisyllabic word back there. Okay. What's our big story tonight? I think it's about COVID.
It's still about COVID. Some good news. Government is now saying that the timeline, at least for the initial batch of shots for frontliners, they're saying about 50,000, but that's a good start. Could come as early as February. That's the first thing. And then also from the private sector, in the tripartite arrangement with government, they're now saying that they've placed another, they're in position for another batch of orders that will add another 6 million doses to that tripartite arrangement with government and the private sector.
But Yusek Vergere was saying that they expect at least 2 brands of vaccines by February this year, which is next month.
Ah.
So do we know what brands these are? Because there are
AstraZeneca,
some
well,
LGUs that are a bit choosy with the brands.
Well, I don't know dito sa ano, but certainly dun sa tripartite, I think AstraZeneca yung nabanggit ngayon. And again, something we'll talk about later. I mean, the LGUs, the local governments have started to negotiate on their own.
What about you guys? Ami, what's your top story for tomorrow?
Well, yun din. Ang pagkaalam kong dadalhin dito next month is the Sinovac vaccine. 25 million doses.
25 million doses. That's good for 12.5 million Filipinos.
Yun yung rollout for February. So, magkakailangan pa siya ng EUA, di ba?
Yes.
Yan
yes.
yung sabi. So, yung mga Western vaccines, ang sabi sa atin ni Babe Romualdez last week no earlier than April, yun ang inahabol niya. So I don't think makukuha yung AstraZeneca na ganun kabilis, no? Although sila Joey Concepcion are working on it. Karamihan sa mga, saka syempre yung hearing kanina ng Senate, di ba? Yung mga senator, they want the LGUs and the private sector to order, di ba? Diretsahan na.
Independently of
the
the
Senate.
government.
Independently.
And the Senate asking for
Yes.
a roadmap for the rollout of the vaccines, no? And while there seem to be good answers coming from Galvez, there's obviously a lot of doubt still because they are all just basically plans, no? So the senators wanted to be assured of, definite dates, kumbaga, no? Not just a February onward or a March onward, because the onward is pretty vague nga naman, So I think that's something that we all want to hear, no? Definite dates, a definite timetable. Especially because the bad news today was that the holiday surge did occur, it seems.
Eto na.
Now, we had 2,000 plus today, right? New cases. So,
And
yeah.
you wait
So
for
more than
another
ever.
2 weeks after the weekend's translation.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
And yung pinag-uusapan natin the previous weeks, it becomes relevant now, yung trust, yung confidence level ng mga Pilipino, not just sa vaccination itself, but particularly when it comes to Chinese vaccines. Gagaya ng nabanggit ni Ami, if it's going to be Sinovac, I think it was Senator Kiko Pangilinan who was bringing up the question kanina. Kung mababa ang trust, then it might be counterproductive to the vaccination process if we bring in brands or particularly vaccines from China and mababa ang trust at mataas ang reluctance ng mga tao to take it. So parang inaano niya is let's take into consideration what we've been hearing from local government officials where they are relaying the message that their own constituents really do not have high trust for these Chinese vaccines.
Opening salvo pa naman.
Dapat maganda yung information campaign, no?
Yeah. But if Sinovac
they
is...
really have to have a good info campaign on it to turn people's minds around, di ba?
But if Sinovac is one of the two, what's the other one? Do we know what the other one is? I'll talk about next month.
Covovac from
Covovac.
India.
Yung
Yeah.
30 million, 25 to 30 million.
Covovax.
Yeah.
Covovax. At hindi daw pwede mamili, sabi ni Presidential Spokesman Harry Roque. Dahil may mga lugar daw na siguro we can ask our first guest about it. Yun daw mga walang cold chain storage, hindi pwedeng mamili.
Oh, well.
Although hindi naman voluntary yung pag-accept mo ng vaccine. But you have to sign a waiver. So siguro we can ask our guest kung anong reaction sa mga ganyang development.
Galing talaga ni
Thank
Ami.
you for the segue.
Kahit saan talaga si Ami pa sa segue. Ang galing
Dahil
yung segue.
hindi ko na, nag-invite mo yung guest eh.
Okay. Well, talking about cold chain, let's go to an LGU which is particularly cold. Our first
Oo nga.
Kailangan
Hindi
din natin
masyado.
kumustahin niya.
Our first guest for tonight, of course, is Baguio City Mayor Benjamin Magalong. Mayor Magalong, thank you for joining us and welcome back to the Chiefs.
Good evening po sa inyo lahat. Good
Oh,
evening,
there you are.
Chief.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening,
Mayor.
Mayor. Mukhang malamig ka. Naka-jacket si Mayor eh.
Kakalinggan ngayon.
Oo.
Yun, nag-ingit ko lang kayo.
Well, Mayor, we understand today you announced that the city is buying vaccines for 190,000 people. Is that correct? 190,000 people, not doses, 190,000 people for Baguio City. But that's around only half of your population of 370,000. What exactly do you have in mind and what time frame are we looking at?
Yes, Ed. First thing is, tinignan namin yung aming population. It's around 370,000 for 2019. In-extrapolate lang namin yung data namin noong 2015, which is 345. So we came up with 370. Tinanggal namin yung 17-year-old below. That's about 30%.
Okay.
And 259,000 times 0.70 to 0.75. At now we ended up with a 180,000 na population, 182,000 na target population. Times 2 mo yun, that's about 360. So,
Doses yan.
naglilay siya 360 to 390, 80, ganon. So what we did was to discuss this with AstraZeneca. Initially, ang binigay sa amin is just 100,000 doses last week. And then we bargained, and then last Saturday, finally, binigay namin yung aming order and explain namin sa kanila. The following day, they approved 380,000 doses. That's good for about 190 people, 2 doses. That's for AstraZeneca. And this will be released sometime in Q3.
Third
So
quarter.
you're talking directly to AstraZeneca, Mayor?
Yeah.
Oh, we're losing Mayor.
Wala po yata yung
We
audio
lost
niya,
your audio,
Mayor.
Mayor.
Yeah, oh.
Here.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. We have intermediaries like, for example, LCP, pero nakita namin na ang kanilang talks pa would be sometime in the 12th, January 12. So made-delay. So what I did was to get in touch immediately with AstraZeneca at pinaspasan namin yung aming NDA sa kanila. After the NDA, yung multi-party agreement, got the consent of the City Council to sign an agreement with AstraZeneca. The signing should have been scheduled last Friday, na-postpone na Saturday, and then finally, napirmahan na nila Secretary Galvez at Secretary Duque. And then
Mayor,
AstraZeneca, local government.
Mayor, maybe you could give us some clarity on ito pong LGUs negotiating directly with the vaccine manufacturers. Ano po ba yung protocol dito, especially relative to the national government? And what does this mean ultimately? Does this mean that hiwalay ang negotiation sa actual access, or does it mean na you negotiate pero kasama pa rin ang order with the national government? How exactly does it get to the point of the vaccines coming into the country, getting to the LGUs? Does this have any bearing on the order and the line for us for each LGU and the national government, for that matter, to access these vaccines?
Well, national government will still be in the front line. Sila pa rin ang talagang main negotiator. But local government should also be aggressive. Kailangan meron din silang direct lines sa mga pharmaceutical company. After that, there will be a multi-party agreement that will be signed by the Department of Health, the Secretary Galvez of representing NTF. And yun ang arrangement. Talagang LGU should take the initiative.
So parang, Mayor, parang kanya-kanya. So Mayor, parang hindi kaya magiging confusing or magkakaroon ng kanya-kanyang hoarding or negotiation, or wala bang coordinating effort, kumbaga, and if there is, and I'm sure there should be, whose job would that be?
Well, it's the National Vaccine Committee. Sila pa rin naman ang talagang main coordinator, no? Kaya lang,
But if you're going directly to the pharmaceutical, how would they know?
they're duly informed. They're duly informed. Ano?
Okay.
They're duly informed. Besides, may mga choices naman ang local government kung anong gusto niyang vaccine.
Speaking of which, speaking of,
In-spell out naman ng NTF kung ano yung mga vaccines, pharmaceutical companies that they prefer, and it's up to local government na mamili kung saan doon, and then we give it to we submit it to the National Task Force.
speaking
Mayor,
of which,
what is the national-
nagbanggit na rin lang kayo ng choices. Malacanang announced today na i-roll out na daw next month yung Sinovac vaccine. At lalo na daw dun sa, I guess you have your own cold chain storage, pero kung padadala sa Baguio, tatanggapin niyo ba yon? And have you conducted, kasi yung ibang LGUs, I think nag-survey na sila eh. Ayaw daw ng constituents nila ng vaccines made in China. So, hindi na daw sila gagastos kasi baka daw hindi tanggapin. What's the situation in Baguio? Okay lang sa inyo yung Sinovac or Sinopharm just in case kung dumating?
But kung anong ibibigay sa amin ng national government, we will accept it. And besides, meron naman kaming strategic communication to inform the public, educate the public. It's a part of the risk communication na gagawin namin in the next few weeks. No? Para malaman nila kung ano itong bawat vaccine, ano yung vulnerabilities, ano weaknesses, anong strength, saan galing to, how was it developed, so that people get educated and they have the option to choose kung ano available na vaccine, anong pipiliin nilang vaccine, but it's on its availability. For example, our case, we're looking at AstraZeneca na meron na kami. Then we're also working it out para makakuha rin kami sa Gamaleya. And then kung darating itong Pfizer, itong Sinovac, then we welcome all these vaccines. Kasi at the end, gusto rin namin i-vaccinate lahat ng aming constituents. If we get not only 70% or 80%, then we'll go for it. And isa pa, marami pang local government na nangangailangan din and they were not able to negotiate. So it's up for us, the local government has the capacity to buy these vaccines to share it with them.
Mayor, we're asking because there seems to be two schools of thought here. I mean, from national to local governments. One school of thought, as kagaya po na nabanggit ni Ami, is huwag na kayong mamili. Kung anong nandyan, yan. In the meantime, the burden on government is to do a good job on the information campaign in educating our public na huwag kayong matakot. On the other hand, nabanggit to ni Mayor Toby Chanco of Navotas. Kanina, it was echoed by Senator Kiko Pangilinan. The other school of thought is, no, let's listen to the reluctance of our people, especially since we cannot require them to line up for this. Kung ayaw nila, ayaw nila. Kung wala silang tiwala, hindi natin pwedeng pilitin. And precisely because of that, they're saying we have to listen to the people on what they trust and do not trust. Otherwise, magpapapasok nga tayo, wala namang pipila to get the shots. So how would you reconcile those two sides, and where would you particularly stand?
Well, Ed, one thing is I agree with the other mayors that we have to, it's not something mandatory. It's not something we need to force to our constituents. It's something voluntary. Isa yan. I agree with that totally. But we need to educate them and let them decide kung ano yung gusto nila based on the availability of the vaccine. Pero kung sakasakaling in-spell out mo na sa kanila, present mo sa kanila yung mga vaccines, you have informed them of its capability, ano tong describing each and every vaccine, pero ayaw pa rin nila, we cannot force them. Pero,
Well, Mayor, we were earlier under the impression that the LGUs could only piggyback with the national government orders for vaccines. So apparently now the LGUs can do independent negotiations po with the vaccine manufacturers kahit hindi na mag-piggyback doon sa national government.
hindi, it's very clear. It's clearly stated sa atin that all negotiations with the different pharmaceutical companies, even if it's initiated by local government, should have to go through a multi-party agreement.
Okay.
So may vetting pa rin on the national level. So does that mean that it's possible for the national government to, edit your requests or whatever you have negotiated already directly? Is it possible for them to say, ikaw, nakabili ka ng, say, 15 million, yung 5, sobra-sobra yan, yung 5 million, pwede mo bang ibigay sa ganito? Is that something that LGUs are open to doing?
Well, kami naman sa local government, hindi naman kami sakim. We still adhere, strong advocacy sa equal distribution. But it's just that, we have to, a local government should take the initiative also.
Yes, sir.
Hindi yung upo lang sila, tapos while the other local governments are doing their best to really acquire, secure vaccines, tapos yung ibang local government, uupo lang yan. It's also unfair.
Yes, sir. Malinaw naman po, so when it comes to ordering, so kailangan coordinated pa rin, kailangan alam pa rin ng national government kung ano nangyayari. What happens po pagka pumasok na yung supplies, we know it will be limited. There is the principle of equal access and equitable access, but given a limited yung supply, will the national government, apart from coordinating the order, once that supply is in, will the national government have gatekeeping and triage authority over yung mga pumasok? In other words, can the national government says, I understand na una ka sa pila, pero wala, kami pa rin ang magkukumpas kung sinong dapat mauna makatanggap nito?
Well, the national government can always do that. Basta ang importante sa kanila, nakikita nila, they look at the big picture. No? Sa amin, sa local government, we're only after the welfare of our constituents. But, we subscribe to the decision of national government. Kung sabi ng national government, Baguio, sobra-sobra ka, kailangan i-distribute mo sa ganito, i-share mo sa ganito, we cannot do anything.
Mayor, in the meantime, tuloy pa rin yung problema natin sa COVID, no? At saka hindi naman basta-basta matatapos yung problema even with the vaccine. And we heard that there was an outbreak sa Philippine Military Academy. Kumusta na yung sitwasyon ngayon? Malapit na po ang summer. At baka magpuntahan na naman kasi sa Tagaytay, nagpupuntahan na ang mga tao. What are your preparations now? We're expecting a surge. We're preparing for a variant. Ano na po sitwasyon ngayon sa Baguio, ng infection?
Well, unahin ko muna, Amy, yung binanggit nyo tungkol sa PMA. No? It's already totally contained. 85 infections, 53 cadets were affected.
Oh, dami
And
na.
isolate na namin
Wow,
sila.
ang dami.
Facilities. Nagkaroon uli kami ng isang test, aggressive testing last weekend. Out of the 700, 9 na lang yung aming na-detect. 7 rather. 700 na lang yung aming na-detect. Tapos na yung outbreak dyan sa PMA. We see an increasing trend in the number of cases sa amin, including death, to be transparent about it. But this afternoon, nagkaroon kami ng meeting sa aming mga doctors, included pa rin yung mga ibang from the private clinics. Pinag-usapan namin yung proactive measures para ma-arrest namin itong increasing trend sa aming death. Second is yung aming cases are increasing after the holiday season. So what we're doing now is we continue to increase our surge capacity. We're now up to 854 beds. I-increase pa namin na 1,000. Initially, 3 months ago, we're just about 300 plus beds. Now, inunti-unti namin because we are expecting a surge after this holiday season. Second is we will continue with our multi-source surveillance. Babantayan pa rin namin using our different types of analytical tools. Babantayan pa rin namin. Third is yung risk communication namin. And that's part of it. Pati yung pag-educate sa public about itong vaccine. At tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung very aggressive kami tungkol sa personal hygiene at the barangay level. Enhance pa rin namin capacity building, yung mga BHERs namin, for us to be able to put up yung tinatawag namin barangay bubble to address itong sectors ng elders dahil di sila yung vulnerable. And so that's part of our strategy to protect the vulnerables. And finally, yung aming border control. We will continue to implement our border control. In fact, today, we again implemented a 14-day border control with our neighbors dito sa siyudad ng Baguio and Benguet.
In the meantime, Mayor, nakita niyo naman po yung images nitong weekend sa traslasyon, dinumog ng mga tao. There was a lot of scenes of people being disciplined and social distancing. A lot of scenes as well of people rushing and crowding. On top of that, ngayon, ang balita naman from Cebu is that Cebu has canceled, sinulog completely, totally different strategy from Manila. And as Ed read out at the start of the show, we're hearing naman from Baguio na tuloy ang panagbenga. Is that accurate? Do you need to qualify that? And for that matter, whatever the approach of Baguio, what are the lessons taken from Manila and for that matter, Cebu?
Well, to be honest with you, Ed, we have our own lessons. Yung nangyari doon sa Christmas lighting, yung Christmas tree lighting. We saw that about 20% of our attendees did not exercise yung physical distancing. Pero kung makikita mo doon sa drone, makikita mo naman na talagang hiwa-hiwalay. Pero pag a different perspective yung kuha mo, akala mo na magkaroon ng crowding. Pero 20% lang yon. And then yung nangyari sa night market, which after the opening, kinancel ko kagad. We learned from that. And so, for this panagbenga, we're going to launch it itong January 18, pero wala na yung parades. Wala na rin yung mobile flower parade, wala na rin yan. Ang may iwan na lang is yung landscaping that's Baguio in Bloom. And then after that, yung Session Road in Bloom na lang, yung maglalagay kami ng mga different spots. Pero this time, we will adopt what we are implementing right now dito sa aming night market. And if you look at our night market, very well organized. People are very observant of the minimum health standards, including yung aggressive na implementation ng aming mga provisions doon ng regulations na pinapangunahan mismo ng ating mga vendors.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I'm trying to
Pastor,
imagine...
has-
sige, Lucy, go ahead.
Yung tourism nyo ba, yung tourism arrivals, have they improved with your opening up since, when was this, November, I think?
October.
And then, yun na nga, as Ami said, we're going into summer. Do you intend to promote even more aggressively and receive more outsiders?
Yeah, in fact, we have already increased our the quota for tourist arrivals from 1,000 to 1,200. For the month of December, significant yung pag-increase. Pero if you compare it to the pre-pandemic, it's only 12.8%. 13,000 lang, but it's still 12.8%. So it is a very dismal figure. And we continue to invite more tourists and visitors to come up to the city of Baguio. Because if you look, kung nagpunta kayo dito sa Baguio, very highly compliant ang mga tao rito. You go to the market, you go to the grocery store, people are wearing their masks, people are wearing their shields. And, we would like to make people feel safe in the city of Baguio dahil meron kami mga triage, meron kami mga process sa pagpasok dito sa Baguio. We hope that itong panagbenga, we can invite more visitors to come up. Anyway, nakita naman namin na manageable at any given time during the Christmas season from December 20 hanggang December 31. Nakita namin na at any given time, assuming na tourists will stay here for 3 to 4 days, umaabot din ang aming mga tourists na mga 5,000 to 8,000 a day. Pero pre-pandemic, nagre-range kami sa 30 to 40,000 a day. So ang laki pa rin. Ang laki pa rin ng kakulangan.
Well, Mayor, I'm sorry, I'm trying to imagine Panagbenga without the floats, without the floral parade, and without everybody going down the street. So if I'm getting it right, what you're planning to do right now is to have static displays along Session Road, and the people themselves, the passers-by, will be the ones na parang nagpaparade. Sila yung gumagalaw. Tama ba?
Well, meron kami Session Road in Bloom. Ibig sabihin, may mga stalls doon where we can display our products dito sa Cordillera at sa Baguio. Yun ang isa sa mga highlights doon. And it's a one-week event. Isasara namin yung buong Session Road. Pero wala nang parade. Definitely walang parade. Because these are, ang hirap mag-maintain nito. Nakita niyo yung nangyari sa Translation. Nakita niyo yung nangyari sa so difficult to control the crowd, especially if everybody is already excited, people are really want to go out, and walk around, enjoy the scenery. Ang hirap na mag-control. So mabuti na lang na i-cancel na lang natin just like what we did last year.
Okay.
Mayor, ibalik ko sa vaccine, kailangan nyo ng cold chain storage even for the AstraZeneca. Kumusta po yung preparations niyo doon? Meron na ba kayong mga special facilities for that?
We have already prepared for that, Amy. First thing is, as early as November, we have already scouted, nag-scout na kami ng mga freezers. Nagtanong na kami sa mga hospital kung anong pinakamagandang brand. They gave us the brand. Naghanap kami, tinihanap namin hanggang sa isang particular na country. Order kami itong January, isinakay na doon sa barko. Hopefully, darating na yung aming freezer. Ito yung mga freezer na pwede mag-handle ng -17 na vaccine. Yeah. Pero doon sa
-17?
For the Pfizer.
Refrigeration lang yan. Refrigerator. Meron din kaming freezer na kaya niya na -25. So we have already prepared our freezers and our refrigeration, our cold storage na facility. We would like to be proactive about it dahil pag ngayon pa lang kami mag-order, baka maubusan na at napakamahal na. Because everybody wants to have their own freezer. So, namin, nauna na kami.
Mayor, sorry, did you say -17 or -70?
-70. And
70.
that's for
70.
Pfizer.
Kasi
Kasi
Pfizer.
Pfizer nga.
ang una kasing gagawin ng NTF, baka may makuha ang Pfizer.
Yeah.
Ang una yung titingnan is, LGU, meron ba kayong freezer?
Yeah.
At sabi, meron kami freezer. Kasi kung titingnan mo yung cold chain logistics, from source of origin, dadalhin yung NTF, national government, will deliver it up to the LGU. Pero yung LGU na mismo ang mag-handle ng cold storage. You cannot depend. Ibigay lahat ng national government. Kawawa naman. Responsibilidad ng local government. So, we are prepared to accept Pfizer. Mahirap kasi kung magbibigay sila ng Pfizer, pero wala namang cold storage facility, yung useless lang. So at least kami, kaya namin tumanggap sa amin. And we prepared for that ahead of time.
But can you give us an idea, magkano more or less itong negative 70 degrees na freezer? Para lang hindi magulat yung mga tao.
Mura lang ho. Mura lang ho, Ed.
Mura lang.
It will just cost us about 180,000 pesos or 160,000 pesos. Mura lang yan. Mura
Saan
lang.
ba
And wala umaabot na milyon.
No, and besides, kung titingnan mo yung AstraZeneca, we don't know the packaging ng iba kasi, no? We're still trying to find out kung how do they package yung vaccine. But AstraZeneca, they package it in vials, 10 doses yung vials. In one small box, ang nakalagay doon is 10 vials. Tapos yung 10 vials na yon sa isang box, meron pang isang malaking carton. Carton can accommodate 24 boxes. Tapos yung carton sa isang palay, which is 1 meter by 1 meter, cube, 1 meter cube, can accommodate 85 cartons. So if you look at the configuration at yung total number of doses in 1 meter by 1 meter
1
cube,
cubic meter.
that's about 200,000
Okay, good for 100,000 people. Okay, maraming salamat po, Baguio City Mayor Benjamin Magalong. We hope to see you soon in Baguio City.
Maraming salamat po. Akit na
Thank
po
you,
sa bata.
Mayor.
Maraming salamat
Thank
po.
you, Mayor. Happy
Thank you,
New
Mayor.
Year.
Maraming salamat po.
Okay, stay with us. The Chiefs will be right back.
An official contract wherein the City of Manila, as a matter of aligning ourselves with the roadmap to vaccination ng national government, officially signed the actual contract of us hoping that we can get as much as 800,000 doses AstraZeneca.
They're only complementary to the national vaccination plan. It is the national government na ang gumawa po at nagpapatupad ng national vaccine plan. Pero tanging gobyerno lang po ang pwede makabili, kaya hindi po sila makakabili on their own. Kinakailangan pumasok po sa isang tripartite agreement.
Welcome back, the Chiefs. We are now in the final stage of our conversation. Joining us now is Bacolod City Mayor Bing Leonardia. Now, Mayor Leonardia is also the president of the League of Cities of the Philippines. Mayor, welcome to the Chiefs.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening, Mayor.
Evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
Mayor, as president of the League of Cities, you called for a meeting tomorrow with the national government with regards to ito po pinag-uusapan natin, the LGUs negotiating to procure vaccines, direct negotiations. We don't know exactly how to phrase it, kung if you're procuring directly or just negotiating and then letting the national government. In any case po, why did you call for this meeting with the national government? What is there to clarify?
Okay, thank you. As early as December, we organized ourselves to form what we call a vaccination availment committee. So maybe that answers your question earlier. Just a while ago, asking how do you call this process. We call it availment to be generic about it because we're not sure whether we will be the one procuring it. So then it's availed or whatever. So what is shaping up as of this moment is we have this idea of what may happen tomorrow with the presence of Secretary Charlie Galvez, and even later in the special general assembly we will have for all the city mayors. We will also have the FDA Director General Yusek Domingo. We hope to see it a more a clearer clearer say plan on what should it really be. Although at the moment it is our assumption that we, the local government units, cannot go direct to the pharmaceutical firms as is happening in other countries because they would naturally be dealing only with the national government. So in effect, it should be the national government that should be procuring all this, and we're only supposed to get them out. But that one issue here would mean that we will have uniform prices for all of us because whatever
Okay.
the national government may procure for a particular vaccine, that is what goes down the line will have to be the price that we will be sharing. And this is for us the reason why we had to call for this meeting and we had to organize the Vaccination Availment Council is because we believe this is all about teamwork. We have to share the the task of vaccinating our people with the national government, and we hope that it will work both ways in a sense, in as much as cities are not created equal, and therefore there may be some cities who might need more help from the national government, and that is why initially what we've been doing was to ask for the voluntary offer of these different cities to how much would they be able to allocate to help out in the vaccination of all our people all over the Philippines.
Mukha naman pong, I mean, mukha naman pong hindi malayo yung pagtatagpo ng usapan niya because kanina, if we go by what presidential spokesman Harry Roque was saying, he said as much. He said, they can negotiate but they cannot procure directly. But I just want to be clear, kung nandun din po yung usapan that it's still the national government, it's still going to be the same price, then what is there left to define with the concept of local governments negotiating directly with suppliers? Why not just let the national government, last week somebody was saying from the IATF, ibigay nyo na lang sa amin yung mga order, tell us kung ilan ang kailangan nyo, kami magne-negotiate.
We have to choose which vaccines should we prefer. So much so that right now our secretariat headed by Baron Hitosis in Manila has been exploring with the different pharmaceutical firms, and we're not in fact finished with that, because in the first place, even if we have a list of about 8 vaccines, all of them had not yet passed the approval of the FDA. So in the meantime, we have to know the specifications of the storage facilities that we may need, its efficacy, and everything about that particular vaccine, so that we, the local governments, may be able to determine what exactly do we want, because it has to be a process of allocative, where we feel that the distribution of this vaccine should be also in accordance with the preferences and probably the capabilities in terms of financing, in terms of funding of the local government units. That has to be considered.
But Mayor, in your case po, kasi Ami, go ahead.
Yes.
Mayor, sabi kanina ni presidential spokesman it will depend daw on not only the finances of the LGU, but yung capability for storage. So, kung yun daw walang cold chain capability, baka sa inyo mapunta yung mga, I think the bulk of the Chinese-made vaccine which will be rolled out next month. That's 25 million doses. Hindi naman pwedeng matenga lang yan dito sa Maynila. Talaga i-distribute siya all over. So anong masasabi niyo doon? Hindi naman daw pwedeng mamili kung nandyan na eh. Paano yun? Anong reaction niyo doon?
I believe that it will still be on a case-to-case basis. It will depend on the circumstance. Like if supposing there's a vaccine that may need this kind of refrigeration, which those in the provinces may not have, then there's no sense sharing that with us. So, the national government will play that big role of coordinating and doing the traffic for all of these vaccines. And at the same time, they have to coordinate with us if we should say yes or no to according to the circumstances that we have.
What are your suggestions, Mayor, as far as making sure that the distribution will be fair, that the preferences of all LGUs, regardless of capacity to pay, will be taken into fair consideration and equal consideration? In short, paano niyo matitiyak na walang madedehado na LGU dahil lang sa wala silang kakayahan?
Of course, that is very, very ideal that everybody should get a fair share. But let me point out for one that the League of Cities is, when you talk about mayors, there are two leagues, the ones for the cities and the ones for the other one for the municipalities. So we are talking here only of the cities. And that is precisely the reason why, as a league, we have decided to band ourselves together so that we will have a bigger voice. So that it would be easier for us to negotiate when we are one, and we feel that it will be a process of negotiation. But if we are the league, if we negotiate as a league, as against negotiating individually as cities, I believe that we can, we can be able to get the kind of arrangements that we feel are best suited to each individual, circumstances of each city as much as possible.
Mayor, we have asked some LGUs already about their opinions, about their preferences, I mean. What about you, in your case? In the case of Bacolod, do you know your constituency's preferences? Do you have a preference? And I suppose you also talked with other members of your league. Do you have any idea what their inclination is?
Of course, this is to each his own. But on the part of Bacolod, as early as December, we created our vaccination council, which has started to organize things for us and how to eventually be able to vaccinate all our population of 613,996. So what actually happened was, in our case, was the first company that came to us, which if it's alright, I mention the name, AstraZeneca, was we thought we would get a reasonable deal with them. And in fact, we are supposed to be covered by a confidentiality agreement, and we're not supposed to give details. Nevertheless, because I noticed that some LGUs had already been somehow announcing the volume that they're going to get, and even the price and the schedule. I had to call AstraZeneca this evening and ask for their approval or for their consent that I should be able to at least even just divulge the number of vaccines that Bacolod has been allocated for. And this will be the first public pronouncement of Bacolod in terms of the availment of the vaccines, that we are going to get 650,000 doses for Bacolod alone.
So that's only for 325,000 people.
Correct, but that is already substantial. And in the case of Bacolod, we are allocating an amount of 300 million for this. And in fact, we made this pronouncement that as a matter of policy, commitment, and because we are concerned we feel that the Bacolod price should be in as much as where the health and lives of our people are concerned, we are ready to go for broke. And we are ready to augment, to supplement, to realign, and anything and everything in our budget to see to it that vaccines become the highest of our priorities for this year, 2021.
Mayor, I'm just
So
curious.
Mayor, pag mga ganyan, ano na ba yan? Kumbaga, nakakahon na yan? Is it already final
planchado
as
na.
far as you and AstraZeneca are concerned at hindi na yan babaguhin ng national government? Ganyan ba yan? Will it be honored by the national government as negotiated by you?
We believe so because we not only that we signed this confidentiality agreement with AstraZeneca, but we also have this multilateral agreement which does not just involve AstraZeneca, but the national government like the DOH, the National Task Force, or through Secretary Charlie Galvez, and even the FDA here is concerned in this multilateral agreement. So we believe so they will adhere to the terms and conditions of this agreement.
Mayor, I'm just curious about the negotiation and the leverage. What little leverage you have? There's little leverage given that the limited supply. We also know that it's in everybody's interest, if not agreement already, na hindi pare-pareho tayo ng presyo. So the negotiation is not on the level of price. I'm just curious, when you say that local governments can negotiate directly, what other factors come into play? What else? Ano pa bang baraha ang pwedeng banggitin in the whole concept of negotiating with a supplier?
Well, for one, we are supposed to, on our own, we have to make our own decision as to which one should be preferred. And of course, among others, we consider pricing. And we also try to consider the cultural side of it, meaning, we try to decipher ourselves which of these brands who do we think our people would most likely accept. And in fact, as of this stage, the matter of our education and information campaign is still something that we really have to somehow organize so well, because we know for a fact, as it is happening elsewhere in the Philippines or even worldwide, that the acceptance or the trust level for vaccines is not that high yet. So all this will have to be considered when we finally, as it is, while dealing with AstraZeneca will not finish the whole process. We feel that this is a very, very substantial part of our campaign to vaccinate our people in Bacolod. With this deal, where we have the approval or the approval and the acceptance of AstraZeneca to give Bacolod City 650,000 doses.
So Mayor, parang hindi naman yan unahan. Hindi naman yan unahan among the LGUs kasi yun na nga, kung pare-pareho naman ang presyo, tapos hindi ba kayo nagkukumahog, mag-uunahan kayo para kayong unang makaguarantee ng supply from, say, AstraZeneca, which is, it appears now, a most preferred brand, no? By all the LGUs so far that we have interviewed. So wala namang ganon kayong nararanasan in the process of negotiating na parang ang dami niyong kalaban, ganon.
To a certain extent, I must admit that there is somehow some kind of saying pauna-una, or something like that. But in the end, I think it will rest on the national government having to do the trafficking, to do the or coordinating and to do the rationing of these vaccines. Because as it is now, while we are preparing to identify and to submit to the national government and to those agencies that may be involved here, our preference and the volume that we that we are committed to buy, in the end, I believe that the national government will still have the last say. And besides, the way we see it, as I mentioned earlier, that the cities are not created equal. We are expecting that to those cities who may need more help from the national government are the ones that the national government should offer more help.
Okay.
Okay, Bacolod City Mayor and President of the League of Cities of the Philippines, Mayor Bing Leonardia. Mayor, maraming salamat po for joining us tonight.
Salamat
Thank you so
po.
much.
Thank
Good
you.
evening.
Salamat, Mayor.
Greetings from Bacolod. Bye-bye.
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 And that will be all for this very special edition of The Chiefs. And we hope what to discuss here will keep the conversation going. I'm Edwin Gao, One News.
I'm Mami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star.
I'm Lucy Cruz Valdez of News 5.
I'm Robbie Alampay, and we are One News.